Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we've got a top 8 breakdown for my first PRB02 tournament for the English meta of the One Piece card game. 64 players, 6 rounds of Swiss into this top 8, and excited going over it with you guys as well. So if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of content for the One Piece card game, and I don't want you guys to miss it. Also, if you guys want any deck lists for this event or many others, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events, and we have been updating for some other PRB02 tournaments around the community, including the Chinoi's events. You can find them either the individual pie charts I've made, or you can check out the deck list table. We've got a good amount of PRB02. You can just use the format here to kind of make it only this format that we have going forward. So in general, though, I do know this pie chart, right? We look at this top 8 and you're like, man, that is a lot of green, purple Luffy and Zoro. And honestly, they're kind of a couple of winners for this. We'll look at the green, purple Luffy deck list too, but generally it got more support and the deck was already pretty good. So obviously a lot of people are testing it out. I am pretty excited to go over the purple Luffy and the Marco deck. If you guys know me, I'm a huge fan of Marco in this game, and it's been fun to see the additional support that it got from this set as well. And if you look at the total leader breakdown, you'll notice some interesting things. One, Silver's Rayleigh was the most populated leader in the event with 11 copies, but none of them were able to get an X1 finish or better, which I thought was interesting. Green Purple Luffy was pretty prevalent with 8 of them in the event, and half of them getting into the top 8. We had a good amount of Blue Purple Luffy, Zoro, Smoker, Bonnie, Katakuri, Kuzan, and the Black and Yellow Luffy. And I also do know that the Purple Luffy as well as the Marco, those were the only people running that deck for this event too. So going X1 is, and also being the only leader in that category is really interesting in my mind. So we're going to go over a good amount of deck lists. We're going to go over 10 different leaders since we did have a lot of different and unique decks kind of bubble out on that X2, but I want to go over them, especially since a lot of these got support, or I know a lot of people are looking at these decks going into this format, so I think they're really good stops there. So again, if you want to look at any of these deck lists, they're going to be on my website. You can check them out. And let's go to our first place list, which is Marco's build of Zoro. And, I'm really excited for Marco to win anything. Either it's someone named Marco or the leader Marco. I'll take what I can get. And this is their build of Zoro. So this hasn't really changed this much, but I do really appreciate that this is the Nami package of it. I know that this is the build that, or similar to the build that Richard was able to use to win the Dallas finals, which is really cool. And it's a really unique build in my mind that I think is like a slightly better than I would say the more traditional one, right? The big kind of change is that we are playing the Nami, which we can use this to search the top 5 for an East Blue type other than Nami, which, when this came out in OPO3, you're like, oh, you can get like some Arlongs or like some other kind of things, but this deck actually has a weird amount of decks, cards that just naturally are East Blue, right? We do have, for example, the Toshigi being East Blue is really nice. The Kuina is also East Blue, which is great for us. We have some of our blockers like Koshiro is an East Blue. We're adding Rika just as another, 2 cost, or a 2K that's also searchable off this. And we also have the Kozaboro here. So honestly, there's a lot of great targets. The fact that Nami also pops out is good. And also, weirdly enough, having like another 2K body that you can use to kind of trade with stuff against like a Silver's Rayleigh or something like that ends up being really, really handy. So all in all, I think this is kind of like if I was to play this deck, I'd definitely play the East Blue build. I think it has like a lot of unique interactions, and it's really cool to see it still do very well. So not much more to say, but congratulations to Marco for their first place there. Next up, we've got Luis with their build of the green and purple Luffy. And again, like this deck just keeps getting support. It's not even like, I think, direct support, but it is just kind of using like just generic Straw Hat stuff, which will always be printed in this game. When the Straw Hats are the main characters, you're going to get more Straw Hat cards. So I think the premier new card is this Nami from PRB02. On play, look top 5 from your deck, review 1 Straw Hat crew type other than Nami, add it to your hand and place the rest of the bottom of your deck in any other. This is not color restricted. This is not cost restricted. This is not type restricted. So you can get Gum Gum Giant. This also can get like green Straw Hats. So examples, Zoro are also the Dead Man's Game. And also has the same trigger as the other Nami where you're able to play this card off of your life. So because of this, and because we have more searchers that we can see more often, I do think that's something that this deck has a lot of benefits for, being able to use this. I'd say this build's like a little bit greedy though, since we are playing 30 cards without counter. Technically, we only have 28 if you count Gum Gum Gatling as one with counter, but we do have to be really, really careful with how much counter that we do afford ourselves, right? So we have 4 Nami, 4 of the other Nami. We've got 4 copies of When You're at Sea, You Fight Pirates, and then kind of the regular package, including 3 copies of Luffy and 3 copies of Luffy Taro. So I'd say this is a definitely, you know, a little bit more of an aggressive build. We have to be careful about how much bricks that we do have, but if you're on the aggression and you're able to just keep playing out bodies and getting that advantage, it's in a really good spot. So green purple Luffy also kind of got the green Luffy from the set. This card is just interesting. I don't find that it's necessarily a great card for the deck, but it does just fit into what the deck wants to do, and it just works naturally. So if you don't like Zoro, that's fine. I think you can play that Luffy instead, or if you want to try to maybe unbrick a couple of cards in your deck, for example, maybe going down to 2 secret Luffys or even 2 Luffy Taros or something like that, I think that 4-drop Luffy could be just another good add to help you there too. But we're also only playing 8 2K Straw Hats. I think we could change that as well, but this deck is still really, really good, and just the consistency from Nami has added quite a bit, right? We've got Nami in the last little bit, we got the Dead Man's Game, and these are just fantastic cards for consistency and helping us close out games too. So here's a build from Luis, and congratulations for their second place with green and purple Luffy. So to wrap up our unique X1s, we do have 2 more. So we've got Claiton with their build of purple Luffy. And this deck is still in an interesting spot. We definitely got like some support for purple Don Quixote do Flamingo family, but unfortunately it kind of only works for multicolored leaders. So we still do have like just a lot of great pieces, and if you want to, you can definitely still run, like I would say, the traditional purple Luffy into Luffy Taru kind of deck, and if you're playing the 2-drop Nami, that would help you out there too. But you will see that we're not even running any like consistency tools when it comes to searching on early games. We're instead just running all of these just events, and we're kind of based around how good Don Quixote Rosinante can really be, right? Being able to untap 2 Dawn every turn is great, especially when purple has some of the better, I'd say, events in this game. We've got 2 Blast Breaths, we got some Gum Gum Giants, Judgment of Hell, and Slow Beam Sword. All of these can be fantastic. We also do have access to 8-drop Katakuri in this purple Luffy, which still is a menace, and we'll talk about this deck or this card in a little bit too. But generally speaking, like just being able to kind of like play out your big bodies. A 9-drop Dofi into Rosinante is still fantastic and kind of like a mini like Sanji play, and we have that additional effects there. So lastly, we do have Lead Performer Disaster, which I think is a bit of an interesting add, but being able to use this to draw a card and ramp one is good, especially like if we end up going first, what we can do is that we go to 3, and then we use our leader effect to go for 4, and then we lead to Performer Disaster, go to 5, and then we start the next turn on 7. I think we definitely want to go, we probably want to go second though, right? We want to be able to play either Bon Clay or the Lead Performer go from 4 to 5, right? No, sorry, to go from up to 5, and then on the next turn we go to 8 afterwards. So which means we can play out our Katakuri as soon as possible, and that if we're able to play an early copy of this, there's not a lot of decks that can interact with this very kindly, so I think that's helpful for you there. So other than that, it's been cool to see purple Luffy still be relevant in this meta, and you know, you definitely can build it with the 2-drop Nami if you want to play more of a Straw Hat build, but again, Katakuri is still just a card to build a deck around, and we'll see other decks that do that as well. But here's the build from Claiton. Congratulations for their top 8 with purple Luffy. And wrap it up, we've got Marco. So this is Stephanie's build, and again, you guys don't need me to convince you that I love playing the Marco leader. It's super fun, and this is a really unique build from Stephanie as well. I'd say that there are like a lot of like cards that I've been using, but there's also just like a lot of tech and kind of more consistency for it. So a couple of cards to mention. One, Emporio, still MVP for this deck. Love to play this card. Being able to get like essentially like a draw 2 and like be able to aggressively trade with things is really, really handy. So I do think that's strong for us there. We do have the new Marco, which you guys don't have to tell me how expensive this card is. Obviously there's future blue and red Whitebeard pirate leaders that would also appreciate this card, but this is fantastic, especially in this leader where if we're on 6 Dawn and we've got our 5-drop ace, we can 5-drop ace into 4-drop Marco. Which this really just converts into like a draw 3 if you really want to think about it, right? We get to sack the card, we get to play this for free. If it dies, we get to draw 2 more cards. It's just really good value at the end of the day. So we also do have Nami. It's just like a blocker as well. Sometimes we have to be on the odd curve. 6-drop Law can win us games. I've said this many times. It is such a good card that we do have to just be aware about how good of a card it can be, and your opponent has to really respect that next turn. They can be facing down like a minus 4k between Law and Marco, and that's really, really tough to handle. So with that, we have 2 copies of Beckman, 3 copies of Newgate, 3 Silvers, 3 Sanjis, and 1 copy of Goldie Roger, which I think is a fun little ad. I don't know if it's the optimal one that I would choose, but obviously, you know, Stephanie able to go 5-1 with this deck is really, really good. So other than that, there are just like a lot of other pieces for this. I think that like the Sabo is interesting too. If your character with base cost 7 or less would be removed, you can return this character to its owner's hand instead, so it can offer some extra protection there too. which is good for just making sure that your Marco blocker actually blocks and takes a hit, so you get that draw too as well. But lastly, I'm probably sleeping on this card. I did sleep on this card a little bit. I'm like, it's just like a 2-drop blocker. But like, again, when we're playing like our Emporio engine, it is, having 6 blockers ahead of us. There's also like so many decks that just incrementally rest our things. So with that too, we can also just get like this extra draw 2, which is really handy. And I've been actually really enjoying playing this Mr. 3 in the deck as well. So by and large, I think Marco is fantastic. I'm going to probably spend a lot of the rest of this month into this meta kind of finding the list that perfects it for me. And obviously seeing Stephanie do well with it is really cool. So congratulations to Stephanie for their finish with Marco. All right, that is it for our top 8 traditionally, but we've got a bunch of X2s that we're going to go over, starting off with Silver's Rayleigh. So this is Sluggyboi's version of the deck here. And we are playing just a lot of like the standard pieces. I will say one kind of add for this is that we did take out the Kid Killer instead of just favoring the Zoro, and also the Gum Gum King Kong Gatling. So I think this is like the way that we're just running a lot more of our Straw Hat cards for the consistency there. If you also just kind of want to think about it too, like Kid and Killer is a 7k for 4 Dawn, but Zoro, if you spend 4 Dawn, it's a 6k for 4 Dawn. So it's really only like 1 Dawn less, 1k less if you want to think of it that way. So it's not like a immediate like a exaggerated downplay of what that card can be. And the fact that it is searchable off a lot more things, I can see like why you would decide to go that way instead. So we do see the Brook 2k, which I generally kind of go more towards the Sanji, but I think both are good, and I wouldn't chastise anyone for doing one or the other. And just kind of a really consistent build, right? We run 16 searchers here, including another 3 here, so that's 19 cards in our deck that are able to find other cards in our deck, which is absurd. We've got the Nami, we've got the Nami, we've got the Sanji, and then the rest of the pieces here too. So honestly, I think Silver's Rayleigh is definitely more of a pilot-centered deck than a deck builder's deck, and I think that being able to finish with this deck is fantastic. But again, I am surprised that no one was able to get next one with Silvers today. So this is the build from Sluggyboi. Congratulations for their finish with Silvers. All right, going into, I would say, we've reached about the halfway mark of the video, right? I'm pretty sure that some people watching this specifically skip to this part of the video. If you did, let me know in the comments that you just care about seeing the Vivi. But I think the rest of these leaders outside of Blue Purple Luffy, which spoilers, I think it's a little bit more of an interesting build too, are kind of unique builds that are mostly based off PRB2. So last thing I'll say is that I think that obviously like the decks that won this event or did well in this event are decks I think were just primarily out the gate just great decks already into this format. But with the deck building and people getting adjusted to either new decks or kind of upgrading old decks, I think that there is a chance for some of these other leaders that we're going over for the rest of this video to do well at a larger event in the future too. So that's my kind of hope and aspirations for it. So this is the build from Jacob, and also shout outs to Jacob. I did make a tiny mistake when I originally released this page, so he was able to let me know and fix it. So I do appreciate him, and I do apologize for that mistake. But Vivi, what does she do? She does not attack. That's what she does. So activate main once per turn for 2 though. You can draw 1 card, then up to one of your characters gains rush during this turn. So generally that means you go second, you get to draw, which is fantastic. And you guys know, again, I love these blue and red leaders, right? And because of that, I know what the card pool for most of this deck is, and it's very, very scary for what you get to do. So I think out the gate, we do have a Cavendish. Being able to be a draw 2 trash 1 is great, and also on a 6k body, so that's really helpful for us. We've already talked about Marco, how good this card can be as well, and so it's just a great add for this deck in general. We are a multicolor leader, so Nami gets you that additional help there too. Being able to get that draw 3 and place 2 at the top of your deck is fantastic, which can also mean there are some situations where you could potentially, on 7 use this effect, and then be able to, get the whatever card you want on top if you want to play Sanji. I've thought about it in the past, and I think that there are some chances for it, but I haven't really implemented it then. And then again, Law, this card is great. I think I'd probably play for this card. This card's just one of my favorites right now. It's so dang good for getting a removal and being obnoxious with red, but I think two is fine. There's definitely the minimum I'd play in this deck. Beckman already being able to get removal and attack the turn you want. The Odin, fantastic card too, being able to get that interaction. We also just kind of have these times when we like being able to attack twice with the same target is great, and the protection from this is good because Vivi just draws so much. We've got Silver's Rayleigh, we've got the 10-drop Shanks and the 10-drop Shanks Shanks, and then a couple Bad Manners, Kick Course, and the Gravity Blade Raging Tiger. So, this is a really interesting leader and a really interesting build, but I do think that the red-blue card pool is really strong right now with the additions from PRB2. So obviously I've been really distracted with Marco, but I do think that there is some chance for Vivi to take advantage of all of the new cards that we got here, and I think that's what happened on this one as well. So this is the build from Jacob. Congratulations for their finish with Vivi. The next up, you've got Blue Purple Luffy. So this is Boadin's version of the deck here, and this is not like quote unquote a new build of Blue Purple Luffy in the sense that we are generally very the Don Quixote family build has been known before, but we did get a good amount of support, and also with the restriction list that happened with OP12, we're more shifted to that as well. So we do have one new card, and we're only playing one copy of it, but it's the PRB02 11 Don Quixote do Flamingo. So blocker on play, if your leader is multicolored, you get to add one Don from your Don deck and set it as rested, and again, it is a blocker. So being able to get that effect is really strong. It also means that you can play 8-drop Dofi and have another target as into this one. It means that if you're on 5 Don, you can use Dofi to ramp to 6, and the next turn you go to 8, so you can play something like your, again, 8-drop Luffy or your Don Quixote do Flamingo. And there are just some weird times where, like, on 5 in this deck, I'm like, Rosie is a really good card, but I won't really get the full value from it when I play it on 5. So having an alternative play that also will ramp me to the 8 is fantastic. So Godthread's also already been a popular choice, so it is a Don Quixote do Flamingo Pirates card, so great cards for Sugar to add that consistency. We don't have any 2Ks for the deck for that, which I think is a little bit interesting, but we do have the ramp from It's to Die For. We have White Snake, which has been, I'd say, a pretty popular tech ad for a lot of builds if you're running Do Flamingo Rosinante, Don Quixote Rosinante, because you can become a 7K leader for very little investment, including a draw 1 cycle, which is great, and kind of the rest of the deck here. So this is a really cool build. I know a lot of people have been kind of working on Blue Purple Luffy with more of the Dofi package because of the new PRB2 cards, and I'm looking forward to doing the same here, and congratulations to Boadin for their finish with this one. Next up, we've got Smoker, and I'd say that Smoker is like one of the winners for this archetype in general, are the new cards. Again, we get to play Law. This card's really good, and honestly, like, this is the deck that, like, Law is quote-unquote made for, right? Once returned, if this leader would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you can give this minus 2k power for the turn, but it's already on defense and 8k due to your leader's effect, so that's great. And then when attacking, give it to one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power during this turn. So being able to use that is fantastic. Lets you get some stuff into range. We don't have any like hard removal cards outside of the Mole Pistol, so we don't have like Ben Beckman or anything, but this can still be a really good card for getting those aggressive trades. And again, it's something with 7k attack, which means that we can play it out on 6, get 2 Dawn back with our Smoker, and get off to the races. So other card is Kopi, which this card is like weirdly expensive right now. I think you guys have all seen it. I think the rares for the PRB02 sets have been a little bit rarer than people were expecting, and this has been one that I think has been hyped pretty big, right? So if your leader has a Navy type, it gets plus 1k power on your opponent's turn, so it becomes a 6k, which is really nice. But also when attacking, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3k base power or less. Then if you have 6 or less cards in your hand, you get to draw 1. So the draw 1 is only dependent on the 6 or less cards. It doesn't matter if you KO something or not. And just having that effect, I think, is great, especially since you do have like the thing where this looks up for Punk Hazard. So actually, this doesn't. If you run Kyaku, you get this search for this. This one's not searchable in this build, but Perona and Virgo, fantastic cards, right? Looking for Slash and or Punk Hazard cards, which Smoker is and Law is, which is just really, really good. So other than that, I think this deck is in a really good spot. It's the best I think it's been. It still has the issue where you have to run. You're just like forced to run a lot of cards with bricks, right? Like it's not even like you can get around it. It's just like 22 is like on the low side, but I think this build in particular, we have ways to kind of interact with it. We're also kind of a little bit more defensive, so being able to use cards like Paradise Waterfall and Spiderweb defensively on cards like Mihawk is really good, which I think is fantastic. Also Mihawk, you get to play for essentially 2 Dawn, which that can't be bad, right? Like any deck that can play an 8k blocker for 2 Dawn essentially is not a bad deck. I don't know who needs to hear that, but it's very good. And obviously you can use the effect in the Bonnie and get your additional value there. So I don't know. I definitely want to test out Smoker myself. I know that I'll get like frustrated because sometimes again you will just brick up, and the 4-life leader is like really kind of vulnerable, I think, this meta with Zoro and Zoro and Silver's Rayleigh running around. But I still think this has a chance. I know a lot of people are going to be playing it, and you definitely have to be scared of what this deck can do in a lot of ways. So this is Justice's build of Smoke. Congratulations for their finish advantage there. Next up, you got Black Yellow Luffy, and this is Gabriel's build. And honestly, one of the reasons I'm really excited for this format is that two of my favorite decks of all time are Marco and Black and Yellow Luffy, right? And the fact that we got support for both of these decks in this little format, and they're honestly good support cards, I think is really fantastic. So I know that Black Yellow Luffy, two things I will say. I think that is a deck that's very complex when it comes to not only how you play it and how you get your sequencing for it, but your deck building has to be pretty tight when it comes to ratios on how stuff works, right? So for this one, you're running like 6 of each of the I guess the guys, and then 3 or 4 of each of the boys, right? So which is generally the standard, I think, for most of this, right? Running only 3 of the Sabo might seem a little bit blasphemous, but the 5-drop Sabo from OP12 has been really good for being able to help you self-awaken in the turns that you need to. 5-drop Ace is the new card from this set, which just being able to kind of fill the gap a little bit of Moria is good. The fact that you can also just play this out from your hand for 5 and then use the effect if you have 1 life, and that's face up, and then you can get the boy that corresponds with it and then just go back and do the loop again. So I think that's something that's really strong for this deck, being able to just, this fix a lot of consistency issues, which is really good, and I think that we're in a really good spot because of this. So we still kind of have this issue where we do have to be careful about how many, how aggressively we use our 2-drops, and once they're hitting the trash, they're not coming back as easily when it, compared to the Gecko Moria days, but it's still in a really good spot. So only other new card I'd say is the Otama. So being able to use this to be like a Zeus, but being able to give something plus 3k power and give your additional thing. The trigger from it is also really good too, so that's helpful. And we do the other thing I'll also notice is that like it's very flexible for us to have Dawn open on defense too. It used to be like, well, I'm going to play Gecko Moria for 8, and then I'm going to attach 2 Dawn to my Luffy leader, and that's all of my Dawn for the entire turn. So when that's not like our best play in the deck anymore, it does mean that we have all these like 4, 5, 6 Dawn plays, which means that we can have 2, 4, etc. Dawn open for defense. So we're choosing Black Vortex for this deck, which I think is fine. It's really good against Zoro as well to prevent them from restanding with their leader effect, and then gets that additional minus 4k for the turn. So if you want to target Zoro, like Black Vortex is very good. I think that Black and Yellow Luffy has always kind of lived with the fact that it has access to so many good kind of tech cards and little spaces for it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if anyone's able to kind of crack the code for the deck and the play style for it moving forward. So this is the build from Gabriel. Congratulations for their X2 with the Black and Yellow Luffy, and then to wrap it up, we've got Matthew with our purple Katakuri. So I know a lot of people are excited for this deck, and I've played a little bit of it, and man, the 7-drop pudding is a good card. I don't know who needs to know that, but it's so good. It's probably one of the best support cards I've seen printed for this game. It's not broken in the sense that it just makes the deck tier 0, but it really helps you get an identity for how this deck works, right? On play, Dawn -2 if your leader has Big Mom Pirates and your opponent has 6 or more Dawn on their field. You get to draw 2 cards and play up to 1 Big Mom Pirates type character card with 6 to 8k power from your hand. So just being able to say one cheat from 7 Dawn to play this, and an 8k is good. Sometimes just having like a 5k body that can attack also just gets that incremental value, and it's been really strong in like what I've seen for it. So I think the bottom end is pretty understood, where we play our puddings, we play our Ananas, we play our Katakuris, and then our 2ks of like Struzen, as well as like Charlotte Oven. I do think that Usohachi is probably a little bit better, though it is not searchable, so that is kind of like the plus and minus for it. We've got the 4-drop pudding as well to help us get our leader effect consistently on our offensive turns. Pero Sparrow, I think this card is fantastic. I've tried without it, and you know what? I'm like, this card is just really good. If your opponent does not answer this card, you get so much additional card cycle, so much additional Dawn, and it's really handy for being really obnoxious with your opponent. And honestly, it's not a terrible card to play off your Charlotte Pudding either. So top end, 2 copies of Lin Lin, 2 copies of the 10-drop. I'm not the biggest fan of the 10-drop because there are so many times where I feel like I'm stuck at 9 Dawn, so actually getting to 10 Dawn is quite the commitment. But if you guys like it, you should definitely run it from there. So we do also have our Searcher. We have It's to Die For, which can get us the double ramp occasionally, and then the God Thread, which can get some good removal for us. So I think that Purple Katakuri is pretty viable right now. I know a lot of people who are testing it, and if you do like Charlotte Pudding into Charlotte Katakuri 2 turns back to back, that is a stupid amount of advantage, right? 2 8k blockers that restand everything. They also restand the 7-drop Pudding that played them at the next turn, so you can get all these free attacks. And I would be, your leader attacks for 6k and can be 6k on defense too once per turn. So there's just so much goodness that happens with the Charlotte Katakuri. And again, mostly just because we now have an extending play for our 8-drop as well. So here's a build from Matthew. Congratulations for their X2 with the Charlotte Katakuri. But that's going to be it for this one. If you guys want to check out any of the deck lists, you can find them on my deck list table. You can find them on the individual pages. And I'm looking forward to seeing if there's any spiciness that continues to pop up the next couple weeks. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you all next time.
Damn it.